Hello.
Hey guys, how are we doing? We have a little bit of a background noise, so hopefully you can hear us. If anyone is on live, then just say yes, I can hear you. But we're going to carry on regardless. So hope you've had a great week. We had a really good workshop last night with our members, and it was really cool actually because we got to talk a lot about all of these things we've been talking about in Mastering You, and how one of the big things that came up, wasn't it, that it doesn't matter what our goals are. I mean, last night was a goal setting workshop. It does matter, of course, but obviously there's a lot more to achieving goals than just setting them.
Yeah,
Right?
absolutely. Yeah, it comes down to actually being present with them. Actually, the thing that came up time and time again was I know what I should be doing, I just can't seem to do it. And having a goal in place is obviously a massive driver to help that. But then we also need to be aware of all the things that can take us off point and off piste with our goals. So that is basically why we created this group, and to really help people understand more of the mindset side of setting and achieving goals.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. So
carry on. You go first. You go first.
Same shirts and same talk. So today, episode 4. We're going to keep this pretty brief. We're going to try and keep these as brief as we can, whilst being as impactful as possible. We're going to talk about overcoming anxiety. Okay, it doesn't have to be just anxiety. It could be kind of stress, or just general kind
Overwhelm.
of fogginess in the mind. And then once we've done that, so Sam's going to kind of take the lead on that. I'm going to discuss next week's challenge. So it's been a while since we've had a Mastering You challenge, and this one next week is in relation to an email or a big post I did this week. Which, if you haven't read it already, if I must say myself, it's one of the most impactful bits of blog post or whatever you want to call it that I wrote for a while. It's really important, and I had some really good feedback from it. So I've decided that we'll base a whole 5-day challenge on it. But first, over to Sam.
Yeah. So we had questions about negative thoughts and trying to steer them back onto positive. And I mentioned on the feed a breathing drill. So we're going to dive into that and take it a little bit deeper, and really hope to give you some impactful stuff that you can do to shift that perspective from negative to positive, or as I like to call it, more like unresourceful thinking into resourceful thinking. So to start with, we've had conversations around, you can almost feel this unresourceful thinking coming on. That's amazing, because that is the biggest key. When we can actually catch them, that gives us, hands us back the power to start to realign with where we want the thought pattern to go. We've had a lot of conversations about this. I put a lot of posts in last week into the group around that internal dialogue. We always have this internal dialogue going on, like this mental chatter. That's normal. That's great, and it will always usually be steered towards negative, because from a brain science perspective, our brain has this negative bias towards it because it wants us to feel safe, and by taking us into that, we stay away from these challenges. I hope that's simple and made you can understand that, because that's basically what it's doing.
Can I just butt in?
Oh, well, yeah.
Yeah, just to elaborate on that. So because I think it was Dale that was talking about these negative thoughts in particular, and for anyone else that has them, because we all do, it's so important to understand that is a healthy brain. That's a brain at work for you, and it's a bit of a paradox, really, that a negative thought could be a good thing, but actually that is your brain, like Sam just said, it's working for you. It's working how it should work. Okay, so just be really understand that it's not nothing. It's no, people think it's a reflection on them, and they think they've got a really bad a bad mindset. It's nothing. That isn't the truth.
Yeah, from a brain science perspective, as opposed to mind, it's providing us with safety. The key here is the 3 tactics and tips we're going to give you to help you, the key is to be able to detach from that. The key is be able to almost like hover above ourselves and be aware of when our brain is trying to protect us with these more, let's say, negative thoughts, but being able to detach from that and saying, okay, this isn't resourceful, this isn't serving me, I need to switch off this pattern. And Matt's going to go into the first one because we had a discussion, didn't we, about sometimes you find it hard when you get a negative mindset or a negative thought and try and think positive, exactly like what you said, Dale, sometimes you can make it worse.
Yeah, so it's quite funny. I don't know if Dale was watching this back, but so I said to Sam, oh yeah, I sometimes have it myself. Like you catch yourself thinking negative, and then you try and force positivity, and you almost have an internal kind of go at yourself, and you'll say, try and be like, stop being negative, or you'll tell yourself off for being negative, and actually that actually just reinforces the negativity. So as soon as I said it to Sam, I was like, my example was, stop being so negative, Matt, like, be more, and that actually is not the best thing that you could potentially do at that moment in time, because your focus is then actually, your attention is around being negative or not being negative. Whereas a much better way of thinking would be actually thinking what right now, what positive action or what positive step could I undertake. And this is the one of the things that we've actually been working on, is having a bit of a mindset toolkit where you can kind of almost reach in, like obviously be reaching into your mind, but reaching in and pulling out a tool that works for you. And Sam's going to share a couple of tools right now. But this is where, rather than telling yourself off and letting the monkey brain kind of dictate the situation, this is where having a good tool can help.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to go into them, and just basically, we're not saying this is the key here is catching it and then being able to get conscious enough to not let that negative thought train run away. So we've got loads more to share on this, but we're going to try and give you 3 super simple practical examples. The first one being box breathing drill, like deep diaphragmatic breathing, getting actually your nervous system connected with your brain to stop this momentum or this negative train sort of taking off. It's actually being able to stop, press pause, and focus inward on your breathing. And a box breath is, so I'm going to count Matt into this as a practical example. So it'll be a big deep breath in for 4 seconds. So go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we hold for 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Out for 4. Hold. So 4 might be a big step for you, but it's a box. So we create 4 sides basically. So if it's 1, 2 in, 1, 2 hold, 1, 2, it's the box.
You can't actually see me, but I'm holding my belly here. Okay, so I've got my hand on my belly, and that forces me to perform what we call a diaphragmatic breath. Whereas a lot of people, when we first ask them to start breathing, they kind of do what we call more of a chest breath. Okay, so chest breathing will actually do the complete opposite to what we want to achieve. So yeah.
Awesome. So that's one. Hopefully, like that, there's something we can go under more. But we're trying to take back, once our negative thought train goes. Basically, the brain takes over, and we go into a completely different part of our nervous system. This is a way of getting conscious again and taking yourself back under your own influence of your brain, as opposed to it running away.
And just before we move on, so you know what you're doing it correctly. A diaphragmatic breath is basically 2/3 belly. So starts here, okay. Then we go up to the second third here, okay, and then the last third here is a very shallow breath. So your chest will hardly lift at all, okay. You should really feel the expansion starting around the belly, and then work upwards. And that will, how hard, that's actually, like, I actually found that quite hard. We've been trained this morning, I've had quite a bit of coffee. That was a really bad first breath. And it will take you 3 or 4 to kind of get used to it. So I definitely
Yeah.
recommend a few minutes.
It's a way of getting still.
Yeah.
So the other one that we spoke about is, again, quick bit of brain science, is when we feel that coming on, it's trying to change our state. One of the best ways is rhythmical movement, some form of rhythmical movement, because the science here, when we get stuck and anxious in that negative pattern, we basically are switching off a part of our nervous system. So we've got parasympathetic, sympathetic, we're switching that off. So a great way of getting this back online is accessing something called the parietal lobe. And by doing that, it switches on by rhythmical moving. So it doesn't have to even be rhythmical. Like walking is rhythmical movement. It can be anything. Get up to actually move. Because it's crazy how much better that can make us feel. But again, the key is being able to catch it before we let us go deep down into the unresourceful behaviour. But get up and move. Get that parietal lobe back online. And the third thing is get out of your own head. And the best way of doing that is be there for someone else. An act of kindness. So we've come up with 3 that we use a lot. So, and this sometimes can be really difficult, but when we get anxious, we get overwhelmed, we're looking to create that shift. One of the best ways of doing that is to give to someone else, give something to someone else. And we've come up with 2 pretty what we call low-level barrier hurdles to be able to jump over. So the first one that I do is try and smile, smile at someone else. I know this sounds a little bit
airy-fairy,
but it works. It really does work. So smile. Maybe even go a little bit further. Give someone a compliment. Tell someone that you really care about them. Be there. Actually get connected with someone else. We're all craving that connection and that care. So get connected with someone else. And we're trying to think about how you can do it. Sometimes I set a challenge to strike a conversation with a stranger or give someone a compliment. Obviously, you have to be careful about not going into the weird stranger realm, but if you come from a genuine authenticity, that will never happen. So that's number 1, an act of kindness, being there for someone else. Matt's going to take the next one because you've got a good practical example of what happens at home, right?
Yeah. So Sam mentioned listening. So I've been guilty of kind of finishing work, coming home, and come home to wife and children, and my head is still in work mode. And I'll still be maybe checking some notifications on my phone or emails, and Jodie will be telling me about the day or how hard the kids have been, and she'll notice straight away if I've not been listening. And I've been a lot better at this probably in the last year really. I will actually tell myself off now, so I'll catch myself checking my phone while maybe Joe's listening, talking to me, and I'll be like, what am I doing? Or I'll be with my children and realise that I'm just not present. My mind is elsewhere. So I'll put my phone on airplane mode, or I'll leave it in the kitchen, even better. And that's something that I'm having to work at this all the time. And I think a lot of these things that you do, I don't think you ever just solve it. I mean, sometimes you maybe do, but quite often it's something you have to keep working at, particularly with things like notifications and emails, because obviously they're coming into your life day to day. You having that, knowing when that switch off point is. So yeah, that's a long-winded way of saying listening and being present, right?
Being present with someone else. So
yeah,
one of the best ways is an act of kindness to someone else. Like we've said, getting out of your own head and doing something for someone else, being there, listening to them, getting connected with someone else to take it out of our own way. So that we're going to hold it there, because hopefully there's 3 big practical examples there that you can use to really get out of this sort of downward spiral of unresourceful thinking. But just before we do, obviously we realise this is quite quick and a lot of stuff. So this is the things that we're making notes of and working on behind the scenes to really go a little bit deeper. The basis of this group is to try and make it practical, to give you things that you can really start to use and take away. Obviously, within what I do with coaching, sometimes we need to go deeper to really find out what is going on. But please, give these things a go, and if they don't, work or aren't as good. We want that feedback. So then maybe a bit like we've spoke about, we think of us as having layers like an onion. We might need to go that a little bit deeper to get that impact. This may well work perfectly for some people. It might be, oh yeah, if I breathe, I can take myself out of anxious thoughts and take it into a different, take myself into a different state. But it's that repetition of giving them a go and trying them. And the last one on the deep diaphragmatic breathing is in about 45 minutes. I'm actually going to meet with a breathwork specialist, and it's something.
I bet these guys didn't know that one existed.
Yeah, so that's something we're looking to either get him to put on a workshop or something we can learn to then
really
go into do it ourselves. Yeah, we're really excited about that as a way of being able to switch our body's chemistry. And supposedly, and I believe it's getting easier and easier and easier. And these are things we want to share with you because I've seen them work in like my life. So we want to be able to help you get impact in that as well. So over to Matt. Sorry, it's gone on a lot longer than we planned. Over to Matt for the challenge.
Yeah, so like I said, the challenge is in relation to the email that I did this week. So if you haven't read that one, it starts with you is what it's called. Read that email first. And it's all about taking ownership of all of your kind of behaviors and outcomes, and basically taking the stance that it does all start with you. You know, you decide on your thoughts, you decide on your outcomes and your actions. But you know, the key to that is telling the truth, and it's the hardest. Well, it without doubt in my mind, it is the hardest part of transformation, is to tell the truth. And there's been lots of quotes in the past that kind of agree with that. You know, all progress starts by telling the truth is my favourite. If we don't tell the truth about, you know, what's really going on, or the things that we should do, or the things that we've been putting off, you know, the things that we know we should be doing, but we don't do them, and then they cause more anxiety because they build up, or we maybe tell white lies about, you know. So telling the truth and being really honest with you and other people. I've been practicing this myself lately, you know. So like if I'm maybe late for a meeting, or a little bit late for, a meeting is a good example. You know, I might have kind of in the past put a white lie in there, so I got stuck in traffic, or you know, I've been really busy this. I'll be really honest. I've been trying to be really truthful and just say, you know what, I miscalculated, you know, my time today, and I'm late. Sorry. You know, that's, you know, sometimes, and that may sound like a really small example, but getting in the habit of telling the truth externally is a really good way of starting by doing it internally in your own mind. And so I know from coaching people as well, you know, we're very guilty of not always telling the truth to ourselves about our situation. So the challenge next week is every day, 4 or 5 days, Monday to Friday, we're going to be posting. It's going to be round about probably 2 or 3 questions. And the idea of the 2 or 3 questions is to peel the onion a little bit. So we ask a question, but then we open up that question by asking another question. So we're getting a little bit deeper, and it'd be really interesting, you know, for you. Now, here's the thing. Obviously, some of the questions, it might be a little personal, so it might not be something you want to share in Mastering You. But what we would like to know is just how you feel about us answering the questions. So it might be that you answer the questions to yourself. I'd recommend, you know, doing it on a notepad and doing it handwritten. But you know, even if you do it on your phone or computer, that's cool. But yeah, it'd be really good to get some feedback. And this is just really free coaching. This is free transformation coaching for you to learn a little bit more about yourself. And drum roll, Master You.
Excellent.
Okay, so
Perfect.
I think we're done. I think comment below if you've watched this back, and we'd love to know if you are in for the challenge next week. And have a great weekend. That's about it, really. We'll cut this off before the 20-minute mark. Take care, guys.
See you later.